Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this tutorial I want to show y'all how to make your own flat wire bezels just using wire like this for polymer clay and resin. So let's get started. So for this tutorial I wanted to show you how to make one of my favorite uses for flat wire and scrap clay, as well as kind of old canes. This is a cane that I made about 6 or 7 years ago, and it can have a tendency to crumble, you know, like it's kind of out of condition. So I like to back it with some scrap clay that's quite soft. And here you can see I actually used like just a mix of scrap clay, inner blended with well, you can't see it, but glow in the dark clay is the background because I love glowy stuff. So we're going to start with about 8 inches of this flat wire. This is flat anodized aluminum. We are going to use our flush cutters. There'll be a list of all the different tools and materials listed down below in the video description. And then we're going to take our round nose pliers, and you could make any old kind of shape that you want. You can freehand it, you could draw something out on the table, or like a piece of paper and then lay it there and like use that as a guide. But I am just going to do a loop like this, and then I'm going to grip it, and trying to keep it very like two-dimensional. See how it's building out a little bit? We don't want that. We want it nice and flat and in line with itself. And I'm going to continue spiraling this around. There we are. And you could do a very tight spiral, but I like something a little bit looser. It lets us put some clay, you know, kind of in between the layers of the spiral. And so now that we could start making a leaf shape, I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to bend a very sharp bend into that. And then I'm going to bend around a little bit more. And I was going to do a leaf shape, but this actually looks like it's going to be more of a teardrop, and that's okay. And so I'm going to try to keep that nice, and again, I want a little bit of clay to be able to fit between these layers, because that way I'm not going to have to worry about this ripping out. Because part of the problem of just making something with the flat wire is there's nothing wrapped holding these two sections right here together. I've done pieces where I've gone through with like half round wire and done like a nice little wrap right there, but I feel like it breaks up the lines a little bit. And so now I'm going to take this part here, right where it's meeting with the point, I'm going to bend it so that it comes off to the side like that. And then I'm going to make a little loop with my pliers. And that will be actually where we can put a ring through for a bail. So now onto the clay work. I have some scrap clay just blended together, and honestly, we could just use that. That's really pretty, actually. We could just use that, but I wanted some leaves inside of the leaf. And so I'm going to take our cane, and I'm going to slice just a few millimeters thick. Oh, that can go off into the scrap pile, because I want to capture the whole leaf. And then we can just start laying them out in a radial fashion. We could have it look like they're growing. We can use the little broken one. Just kind of taking it and pressing it into the base clay. You can see here I'm working on a piece of silicone mat. The clay peels off very nicely, keeps me from tearing my projects, which oddly happens more than you would think. And I don't have to get underneath it with the craft knife and peel it up. So now I'm going to use an acrylic roller to just marry these in just a little better. Just smushed on in there. And you can see like that one's got a little bit of a crack in it, and for this project that's okay, but that's again why I'm using these old canes for this project. So now we're going to take our clay, well, our wire bit, and I actually don't want any clay up in that part, so I'm going to position and see. Yeah, I want to capture it like that. And so I don't really need any clay past right there. So I'm just going to slice that right off. And then we can have that right there. So it's and you could go ahead and press through and then just use like a tool, like an awl or something, to clean that hole out. But so here I wanted to get a different view for you guys. But you can see how I have it positioned over, and then I'm just going to use a large flat surface so that I can apply pressure evenly, and then I am going to smush the heck out of it, because we want to get every little bit of that wire embedded into our project. There we go, and you can see it ballooned those leaves up a little bit, but that's all right. So I'm going to peel up our scrap clay. Then we're going to peel up this part of our project. You can see we still got a little bit there in the hole. That's okay, because then we can just come through with a tool. Maybe a smaller tip than that. There we go. Clean up that extra clay off the edges. Tidy it up just a bit. And now right there, we can actually pinch that down just a little bit more, because as it bakes, it'll hold there. Wonderful. And so now the next step is going to be, we're going to place this into our oven at 275 degrees, or whatever your clay manufacturer recommends. Like, it'll be there on the package. But I'm going to bake for 275 for about 45 minutes. You know, and really I could probably get away with 30, but so long as you weren't worried about it burning, I bake the heck out of it, because I really want to make sure that there's not going to be any crumbling or anything like that. So the more you do it, the more experience you'll get. But and that's, I start baking from a cold oven as well. And so if it were preheated, I would probably only put it in for 30 minutes. But we're going to do that, and then I'll meet you guys right back here for the next step. Our project has been baked and cooled, and I think it came out really nice. Like, it's different. It's not what I envisioned, but I like it. We have a couple of different options. We can use Mod Podge or Mod Podge, just your preference. The Dimensional Magic is a doming resin, or not even quite a resin. That's the wrong word for it, because this is water-based. So, and it works out pretty well. It's really affordable, and you don't have to mix anything. You just kind of like take the, use the tip applicator and just kind of put it down in. But you do run into some problems when that happens, and that's, you might get some runoff. Oops. But you can go through after it's been dried and kind of chisel that off. So I'm just gonna, so I mean, it cures pretty hard, but not quite resin hard, if that makes sense, like properly cured resin hard. So yeah, I just kind of get in there and chip it off and shave it down, and you can shave up the edges and stuff, but just be sure to, if you're doing it, do it on a silicone surface. That way it'll peel back up. But that's one of the downsides, though, is I usually have to give myself about 24 hours of dry time before I can really feel comfortable with picking it up and not making a mess with it. But that's how that comes out. And then I also have here some of this magic gloss. This is a Pavelka brand. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. And it comes out really nice and hard. It is also a self-doming liquid, but this is a resin. It's a UV resin. You can put it out into direct sunlight, or you can use a lamp with it, a UV lamp. It's not the kind that tans your skin. It's the long wave UV, so don't like stick it in a tanning bed or anything. Um, and it's quite expensive, but it has a really nice effect. And what's super cool about it too is it won't start curing until you put it into the UV, so you can have all your bubbles come out of it and stuff. You can do a layer, pop it into the lamp for a few minutes, add a few, like if you wanted this to be steampunky, you could add some gears and things, do a layer, pop it into the lamp. And that's really neat. Now let me see if this piece that I have going over here is finished. Because you can also, I had this one on the silicone mat. Let me turn my lamp off. And I had just filled in the backside with some of the magic gloss. And it did leak a little bit out the back, but we can probably trim that off. If I had some finer tipped scissors, that would work out great. But yeah, we can just come around, snip this off. You know what would work perfect for that? Would be some flush cutters. Just get in there, clean up the extra resin. And I just did a thinner layer for this first, like just the backing, because then we could go through and add more layers and stuff that way. And this was just, ouch, this was just me making some little wire pieces, but again, I wanted it to hold together nicely. And then I just filled it in with the resin. We could put in some alcohol ink and then do another layer of resin and make it a much more translucent, almost little stained glass leaf. So those are just some different things that you can consider, and also different projects that you can do with basically the same materials. But to use the magic gloss, I'm just going to come in and I don't want my hand getting in the way. I guess I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know if I want to dome over the metal or if I want the metal, like, not to be, I guess I'm just going to dome over all of it, and that'll look pretty nice. Now I'm really interested in experimenting with other UV resins on the market. To see if maybe I can find something that is similar in quality and concept, but much more affordable would be nice. There we go. And we don't want to overflow it, and we can always come back in and add a second layer. Put that off to the side and put the cap back on it, keep it out of UV exposure. Now my only spot that I'm worried about is right here. There's nothing really blocking in the resin from leaking out, but everything else looks pretty good. I am going to use just a little toothpick to drag. I need more right there. I think this gives us a really nice little bezel. And we could use other resins, I guess, if you wanted to. But I found some resins that are like casting resins don't dome as nicely. So definitely look for something that has self-doming qualities. I'm just popping any bubbles that might come into the mix. I see you in there, bubble. Come on, get out. Bah. Well, we might just have a bubble there in the middle. I've found I have more success with kind of trying to drag the bubbles together and out than I do trying to fight with popping them individually. And I really like this because it does have a little bit of a magnifying effect. So some of the glitters or like shimmery pearlescent clays that I used will really come to life in here. But what I'm going to do is, since I don't want to risk getting any of this on my little tray bottom that's here, let me zoom out, since I don't want to risk getting any on here, is I'm actually going to take my UV lamp and set it over the project. There'll be links to all the different tools and materials that I'm using down below. And then you can turn it on, you can set the timer, and that way you're not, you know, accidentally leaving it on overnight or something. But, and then you just leave it set. I usually leave it for about 20 minutes. And then I come back and check on it. But something that's pretty cool that you might be able to see is these little hearts charge up that glow in the dark. Like, I don't know if you can see. Nope. But it definitely does light up, though, when it's exposed to the UV light. Just see how it's glowing? It's pretty neat. But yeah, so while that's curing, I'm actually going to add a second layer onto this because having it be clear, it does act to reinforce what we're doing. Actually, no, before I do a second layer, I'm going to do some alcohol ink just to see what happens. So let's do that. What we're going to be doing here is we have one layer of the Magic Gloss UV resin cured on the bottom, and then I'm going to be coming in with some mermaid and some stream colored alcohol inks, and I'm just going to do like a drop, and then a drop, and then a drop, just to kind of see how and what they do. They kind of really like to spread a bit, don't they? Then, oops, I'm going to do like a drop. That seems to be all it can take. But oh, you can see it spreading through the other one. You see that gives it a really nice translucent effect. Dun, 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 dun. Yep, just gonna sit there like that, and I'm going to let this dry, like all the alcohol dry out of it before doing another layer. So now it seems to have dried completely, or at least most of the way. It's been a couple of minutes and I ran out of patience, so it's dried about that far. And I am going to now dome it with the Magic Gloss. And I am going to do this over my silicone surface, just because I don't want to mess up my little tile. Though this stuff does seem to wipe up pretty easily. And I'm just pouring it in. I'm going to use the doming effect for this one. And just kind of go over the whole piece. Sorry for all the traffic noises. It's a beautiful day, so we have the windows open. Oops. There we are. Is that as good as I want? Oh. I'm trying to drag it all the way to the edge. There we are. So now you can see how that's coming through. Really love that transparent look. Now I'm just going to take these bubbles and run them off the edge of my work. Though honestly, for something all very, I don't know, watery looking like this, like, I don't know, it's like a little water leaf, I kind of like the bubbles. So, I don't know, I'm not a purist whenever it comes to no bubbles in my stuff. It's like sometimes they add that little bit of touch of magic and uniqueness that otherwise just might not have been there. So that's how that's looking, and I'm going to pop this over into the lamp. And and then I'll meet you back here whenever these projects have hardened up. So here we have the two completed projects, this one with the polymer clay and this one with the alcohol ink, which is definitely very striking whenever it's backlit. And it's pretty whenever it, is just skin as a background too, but I really like this one for jewelry purposes. Like there's the way it catches the light and moves and things. So definitely a bit to get the inspiration going though, but I do like just looking at that though. Hey y'all, thanks so much for hanging out with me for this tutorial. I do hope that it was helpful to you. I know I really enjoyed getting to experiment around with some different things. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave those down below in the comments section. Let me know which one's your favorite. I'm having a hard time picking a favorite out of the two. Like I love this one when the light's behind it, but I also love this one. I don't know. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you follow along with any of my tutorials or just make something and you want to share a picture of it, please consider tagging me on Instagram or sharing it to my Facebook wall or visiting my Patreon links. All the links to my social media are down below, because you can post pictures to the community page there on Patreon, and you don't even have to be a pledger or anything. But I do want to thank all of my generous patrons, because without you guys I would not be able to make these daily tutorials the way that I do, and I really appreciate your support and everybody who likes and shares and subscribes and comments. And for those of y'all who are just passing through and watching and didn't say a word and didn't click a button, thank you anyways. Like, you guys make this stuff possible, so thank you so much. And until my next tutorial, tomorrow's video I guess, happy crafting, and I'll see y'all around. Bye.